Settle ourselves into a strong position and start with 3 long, deep breaths. Now let's establish a rhythm of breathing mindfully by being aware of our breathing. Breathing in, I'm aware of my in-breath. Breathing out, I'm aware of my out-breath. While we are doing the breathing meditation, our mind, the thinking mind, will want to wander around. Just gently bring it back to the breathing. Breathing in, my breath grows deep. Breathing out, my breath goes slowly, deep, slowly. Again, if our monkey mind keeps wandering, gently invite it back to our breathing and our body. Breathing in, I'm aware of my body. Breathing out, I relax my whole body. In, aware of the body. Out, relax the body. Now that we have established a rhythm and a union between the body and the mind, we can explore some of our feeling. Breathing in, I'm aware of whatever feeling I have. Breathing out, I release this feeling. In, aware of the feeling. Out, release the feeling. Now you can release all kinds of thought and just return to your mindful breathing. Breathing in, I'm aware of my in breath. Breathing out, I'm aware of my out breath. Thank you for your practice and welcome back to the Diamond Sutra class. We are trying to find some diamonds in this busy world. I'm not sure if you have found any diamond yet, but we are getting there. So some clarification. Last 2 weeks, I asked you to give me some lines of dedication of merits, and many of you did. I must confess that I assumed that everybody understood what dedication of merit is, but I was wrong because the practice is very traditional in Buddhism. And So today I'd like to give some ideas of what that is and how, in your own word, don't worry about how you word it, is your deepest wish or aspiration. How do you want to, so when you practice, you, um, in traditional understanding of Buddhism, when you practice, you generate some kind of merit or positive energy, right? And for example, like a practice of giving, when you give, actually you are already helping someone, right? But then there is some kind of merit in that act of giving that we cannot see. And then we want to, who do you want to dedicate, to transfer that merit to? For example, the practice of dedication of merit is like you use one candle to burn another candle, to give light to another candle. Your candle, the light of your candle is still there, but then you spread the light to many other people. That is the mindset behind the practice of dedication of merit. You can dedicate your practice to your father, your mother, your children, your loved ones. And in Buddhism, we want to go big. So we dedicate to all living beings and to all non-living beings, right? So that is the basic idea behind that practice. And in whatever way you make it doesn't matter, is the intention behind is what counts, what matters, right? And so again, the Diamond Sutra tends to negate our conventional understanding, right? And it leads to a different perspective. But remember, it doesn't provide some kind of metaphysical discussions. The Buddha wants to ground us on this very, body, on our so-called mundane practices, like, even though we reject the notion of an independent self, but this self still has to do the practice, like giving or doing gratitude practice, or touching the earth. So all these simple practices are the supporting energy, supporting practices that can help us achieve the highest wisdom that the Diamond Sutra teaches, right? So we don't just, looking at those wonderful, beautiful ideas and practices, like, no self, no others, and then forget do our simple practices like gratitude and, giving practices, right? So it is important to remember that regardless of where we are on our path, these simple practices are important, right? Okay, so some people ask, what is Bodhisattva, Mahasattvas? So Bodhisattva, you already know that an enlightened beings who also want to help other people, beings to be enlightened. And Mahasattva is someone greater, big Bodhisattva. So we are here, we're small Bodhisattva. There are beings who are Mahasattvas. Maha is big, Sattva is being, great, or Maha is great, and Sattva is being, great beings. So we are all, we are inspired to become Mahasattva, great beings, and that is the term in one of the reading that we have, Bodhisattva and Mahasattva, right? Great beings, and we are all inspired to be great like that. Another thing that I mentioned in the last class was, so the word living beings are us and all the sentient beings, and also our thoughts, the mental, our mental thinking, different types of thoughts is, to me, I consider different types of thought is also living being, because they are in us, they, they occurs in us, and we should also liberate them. For example, maybe you have an angry thought. So that is one living being you want to liberate, right? So if you are liberated from that thought, then you're good. You help liberate yourself from being angry, right? So So living being is not only, you know, the being sentient beings, but also the beings in us, meaning our, you know, so many kinds of thought, right? Yes, that is all for the clarification. And if you have questions, you know, we can answer them all in the end of this class. And or if you don't want to talk, you can type it in the chat and we will answer them. Okay. All right. So today we continue our sutra, the first flash of lightning. Last week we already learned half of it, and hopefully today we'll do the rest.
Yes, I was trying to unmute. Okay. The first flash of lightning. The Buddha said to Subhuti, "This is how the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas mastered their thinking. However many species of living beings there are, whether born from eggs, from the womb, from moisture, or spontaneously, whether they have form or do not have form, whether they have perceptions or do not have perceptions, or whether it cannot be said of them that they have perceptions or that they do not have perceptions, we must lead all these beings to the ultimate nirvana so that they can be liberated. And when this innumerable, immeasurable, infinite number of beings has become liberated, we do not, in truth, think that a single being has been liberated. Why is this so? If Subhuti, a bodhisattva, holds on to the idea that a self, a person, a living being, or a lifespan exists, that person is not an authentic bodhisattva.
Thank you. Let's spend a few moments contemplate this passage. There's so many beings. A bodhisattva should liberate them all. And more importantly, don't think that a single being has been liberated. So last week, we studied that when this innumerable, immeasurable, infinite number of beings has become liberated, we do not in truth think that a single being has been liberated. And we explore one example about the practice of giving, right? So first, we don't have to think about we have to liberate anybody yet. On our level right now, maybe a simple practice like giving or generosity could be used, could be practiced under this light. So last week we studied that when we give someone, we have to be thankful for that person because they help us perfecting our practice of giving. Because without people who are in need, we wouldn't be able to practice the giving, right? So today's second part, which is after you give, you don't become concerned with how your gift is used, right? So if you give an unhoused person some money, but later you find out that they use the money for drug or for smoke, they didn't use it for food, you become upset. And that is not how you should give. You give and you're not concerned about what you give. So you may ask, you know, if there's a disaster, natural disaster, you donate some money to some organization, and what if they use it for the wrong cause, right? They didn't use it to help people. In giving to those organization, we have to really do our due diligence in finding out what they use, how they organize, and how your money will be used, right? So in terms of day-to-day giving practice, after you give, you forget about it. You don't you don't have to be concerned with what you give, because if you give and then you get angry or you get regrets, it is not a practice of genuine giving, you know. And thirdly, giving is the best way to overcome our greed. So in Buddhism, there are three main poisonous mental states. The first one is greed, the second is hatred, and the third is delusion. So greed is what this society is standing on, I think. You have to earn more, make more, have more, spend more, right? Is that not greed? So greed produces so many forms. In giving, you challenge your greed. Remember the second truth of the Four Noble Truths? Craving is the source of all of our suffering. It is a cousin of greed. They are related, right? So the act of giving brings so much benefit to your spiritual growth. Furthermore, we have to understand that the process of growth is gradual and sustainable, should be gradual and should be sustainable. Since you cannot say that, because I practice prajna paramita or perfection of giving, I don't see any giver, I don't see any receiver, and I don't see any gift, so I don't do any giving. That's not how we gradually proceed on our path. To me, I believe in a process from imitation to intention to perfection. If you observe children, they imitate everything we do, right? If you have younger children, they imitate. So we, on this path, we imitate first, we imitate. Maybe at first you don't know how to practice meditation. You just sit first, right? You sit with a monkey mind first. You imitate. You sit solemnly. You sit straight. And then after a while, you put some intention into that practice. So before you start your practice, you generate an intention to be, curious about what is going on in your head, in your mind. So your intention is what helps you to, achieve or attain some kind of wisdom. So everything starts with the mind, and with the mind, with good intention, pure intention will get you, will give condition for wisdom to arise. And then when we are good at meditation, it go to perfection. So we have to go slow and sustainable. Imitation to intention to perfection. Similarly, there's a misunderstanding about one of important teaching, which is non-self. Non-self doesn't deny the suffering of a person. right? So if we really want to help people, we don't go to people who are suffering and say, hey, there's no self, so why should you suffer? That's not how we transform our suffering. We have to go from maybe a suffering self to a healthy self to a non-self, right? So you don't go from suffering self to non-self. It doesn't work that way. So you have to first acknowledge the suffering. I remember one story that one spiritually advanced teacher, when he lost his loved one, he cried a lot. And one of his students asked him, you teach us non-self, you teach us impermanent, you teach us life and death is an illusion. Why are you crying? And he said, losing someone, even though life and death is an illusion, losing someone is the greatest, the most profound kind of illusion that we have to deal with. So acknowledge, what is going on, imitate what is being practiced, and then with good intention, we can turn that imitation into, intentional action. And intentional action has another name, which is karma. That is how we create karma. And then from that, we, gradually go to perfection path, right? So we don't ignore, remember, we don't ignore simple practices like gratitude, giving, touching the earth. And I hope you don't ignore those practices either. Let's return to the phrase, we do not in truth think that a single being has been liberated. So this phrase tells us that don't think, just do it. Because we have been fooled, we have been tricked by our thinking so many times. If you can recount one simple incident, which is waking up, you set an alarm for 5 a.m. to, determined to practice morning meditation, but then the alarm goes off, you try to fight in your mind, should I get up or should I, lay down here for another 5 minutes? So you see, your mind will try to trick you. So this sentence said, don't think it, you do it. This is a great sentence for contemplation, There's always space and time for more meditation. And we do not think that we have done enough meditation today. We do not think that we have done more meditation than the other person. We do not think that we give more than others in our Sangha. While we are constantly practicing, we do not think that we have done any practice. We just do it as our second nature, just like, breathing. We don't think too much about breathing. We do it. We breathe naturally, just like we liberate, we help, we give others people naturally. So in truth, don't think that there's a single practice has been done. If you think too much, then you say, oh, I already practice, I don't need to practice anymore. It's not like that. For example, in this in our class, we ask you to volunteer to read or do something. You don't say, why do I have to do it? Why doesn't that person do anything, right? If we embody the teaching of the Diamond Sutra here, we don't think like that. We move as a stream that benefits many people. We do anything naturally and don't even mention that we do anything at all. It is the most beautiful contribution that we can do for all kinds, for all kinds of setting in your work, in your family, when you get home and you see the house is not clean, you just clean it. And you don't just after clean, just blame, why don't you do it? So we kind of do it with a big heart. Because anyway, if you don't do it, or if you already did it, saying or not saying doesn't matter anymore. It just creates more problems in the family, right? And you do it, and you just forget about it. So whatever you feel like you are doing a lot, you can return to, this phrase and contemplate its deep meaning, when after we do it, in truth, we don't think that there's anything has been done. Okay, this is a good contemplation for all kinds of problems. Because if Subhuti, a bodhisattva, holds on to the idea that a self, a person, a living being, or a lifespan exists, that person is not an authentic bodhisattva. So return to the question, what is an authentic bodhisattva? An authentic bodhisattva doesn't hold on to a notion that there's a self, there's a person, there's a living being, or a lifespan exists independently. Everything is connected. Everything is connected. This is just, for us, this is just an understanding. We know that, yes, we cannot exist if there's no air, if there's no food, if there's no help from other people. We know, right? We understand that, but we haven't realized that yet. Because in our daily activities, we still think that we are an independent person. That's why we are not authentic bodhisattva yet. We still think that, oh, I am the one who did it. I am the one who helped. I am the one who gave. We are still on the process of trying to be a good practitioner. Right? In one of the bowing practice, before we bow, we say that the one who bow and the one who is bowed to is not different. That's why the connection is enormous. It transcends all kinds of boundaries between the one who bow and the one who is bowed to. Again, we return to the our breathing. When we breathe, we don't think that we have to breathe for ourselves. We just breathe naturally, right? So when we read the sutra, we have to be able to embody that the Buddha is speaking directly to us. If we don't see that, then we are not really engaging the sutra. In this sutra, the Buddha said that a bodhisattva should not hold on to the idea of a self, a person, a living being, or a lifespan that exists separately. He or she is not an authentic bodhisattva if they hold on to this idea. And we have to embody this, bodhisattva practice. Whenever we have a discursive thought, about the separation between ourselves and others, then we have to be aware of that thinking, that kind of thinking. The notion of, a self, a person, or a living being is the perception that there is a permanent, everlasting entity that exists separately and independently. We use language such as myself, the other person, a dog, for the sake of, conventional usage, but we become attached to the language. Language is powerful in terms of shaping our thinking, right? What we perceive as an independent, permanent entity is an illusion. This body is always changing. This mind is always changing. If we have any control over this body, how come, when we tell it to be healthy, it gets sick? When we tell our mind we tell our mind to think good thought, it thinks bad thoughts. Nobody wants to get sick. We want to have a healthy body, but we get sick every once in a while, right? So how can it exist, dependently? We have very little control over this body. It is the impermanent nature of our life. It is a good thing. It is a good thing that our body is changing. If it's not changed, how can we grow up, right? So impermanence means changing. If you don't have impermanence, how can you see beautiful yellow leaves in the autumn? How can you see a child grows up into a beautiful, adult person, right? If our mind is not changed, how can we nurture spiritual life? How can how can transformation happen, right? So the idea of a person is something that is different from a self, which is also an illusion. We have the idea of us and them. That is why conflicts and disputes happen. It can go further to the idea of our society versus their society, our religion versus their religion, and so on. So a true practitioner, a true bodhisattva should not possess or hold on to this notion. Sometimes it is difficult to accept that there is there is no separation between self and others. What about people who do bad things, right? How do we see them? On the conventional level, legal laws and cosmic laws of cause and consequences, we have something to do with those people. But for bodhisattva, for our own sake, for our own practice, there's always compassion for those people who perform unwholesome deeds. And bodhisattva never gives up on those people. When we see people do bad things, we immediately jump into judge to, hope that they receive the punishment that they deserve, right? Bodhisattva go beyond that. They see that actually that person is not who we should hate, but the delusion, greed, and hatred are what we should, are our so-called enemy. People are not our enemies. Greed, hatred, and delusion are our enemies. In Mahayana Buddhism, which is my tradition, there is a bodhisattva named Tisigaba or Earth Store Bodhisattva, who always help beings in the hell realm. And his vows, his primary vows are, as long as hell is not empty, I won't become a Buddha, right? As long as there's a single being not liberated, I won't become a Buddha. So his vow is to remain in the world, to liberate all beings, you know. At the same time, he does not have the idea of a self, a person, a living being, a lifespan exist separately. So ultimately, he's doing his work freely. That is why he's able to sustain his energy and fulfill his perfection, 6 perfections. For those of us who do work that relate to, helping people who are mentally challenged, it is easy to be burned out and to absorb their suffering, so we have to go beyond what is theirs and what is ours. We with compassion, we don't think that their suffering is there alone, but at the same time, we don't take their suffering as our suffering. That's not how we can help them. We have to go beyond, transform what is commonly perceived as, us and them. It is a little bit unconventional, I know, but for the sake of this class, we have to see a goal, a purpose of our practice. Because if you want to get somewhere, you need to see a point, right? If you want to get from A to B, you have to see B before you get there. Otherwise, you'll be, lost. So our B point is to be like a bodhisattva. And on this journey, whenever anything that happened to us, we always have the ideal of getting there, being a bodhisattva, to shed light on whatever happened. For example, someone may say something that is not nice to us. The question immediately is not how do I respond to that, but how my bodhisattva respond to that. That is how, the ideal become reality. And it is doable. It is achievable. It's not something that is hard. It just requires 1 second to stop, to pause, and to embody your bodhisattva, your ideal, your B point. The idea of living beings and non-living beings is also false. We shouldn't separate living beings and non-living beings. So like rock, wood, table, we call them non-sentient being, right? And we all have like insects, animals, we call them living beings. So we want to separate them for our conventional usage. But ultimately, we shouldn't separate anything. Because if you see the there's a person that's like me, right? I use non-me to make me possible. For example, I use food. Food is for our conventional wisdom. Food is non-living being, right? But when we take the food, it becomes a part of us, a part of me. So now, where is the line between non-living beings and living beings? We are so connected to the world, the earth, the tree, the rock, the table, so on. We are made possible thanks to those non-us elements, right? Without food, we cannot exist. Without air, we cannot survive. So in our practice, we should dedicate our practice. We say that sentient beings and non-sentient beings will eventually fulfill the Buddha path, the Bodhisattva path. It becomes significant that our existence and practices, will impact not only sentient beings, but also everything else, Lastly, it is the notion of a lifespan. We know that we were born, we live, and we will die, right? So we call that a lifespan. But there's something bigger, we are not from nothing, and we will not return to nothing. Our lifespan is not just in this world, it's not just 100 years, 80 years. It has been before, it has been now, and it has been into the future. We don't limit ourselves into this. That's why our sacred responsibility is to continue this learning and this practice for later generation. For example, your lifespan can touch many, many people after you pass away. You don't stop your living when you die. You transform into something else, and those something else can touch other people's lives, and it will continue living in different forms, as we already know. So a lifespan is just a perception, and when you realize that, when we realize that, we are free from the fear of death. Because when we have the fear of death, not only the pain, but also the nothingness after we die, the uncertainty after we die. We're not fear of death. We are afraid of the uncertainty. But now we first we understand that our lifespan doesn't stop when we die, and we realize that, so there's no fear at all. Like we already have the path. There's no fear. In some sutra, the Buddha said that your age doesn't matter in terms of, learning the Dharma. If you live 100 years and don't practice the Dharma, it is better that you live one day and practice the Dharma. So he wanted to teach us that don't take your age or lifespan as something separate from the reality. Instead, you should see the continuous nature of reality and take moment as opportunity to practice the teaching. So this part, the Buddha teaches us a meditative practice that is great for, building a healthy relationship. First of all, we have to return to our conventional life, build good relationship by do things that is beneficial for others, and at the same time, don't think too much about what you have done for people, because ultimately, that is the B point we want to reach, right? And for a healthy relationship, it is built upon compassion and non-attachment. In compassion, we vow to help, to liberate, to do whatever it takes for the benefit of others. In non-attachment, we don't think that we have done enough, and there are more space. There are rooms for more doing like that. So it is to say that one of the way that you can say that is to liberate. To be liberated is to liberate oneself, also from one's understanding, misunderstanding of notion of self, a person, a living being, or lifespan. We also have to liberate ourselves from that misunderstanding. After that, we get to the B point where we don't see separation anymore. All right, so that I think that's too much for one class, but we'll get there. I see something in the chat and I want to give it some moment to explain. How to liberate something that doesn't exist? That's a good question. So the object of our liberation has to exist, right? Conventionally, we have to put that word conventionally there. So you exist, I exist. We don't deny our existence. Like I say, we don't deny our suffering, right? At first, recognition, mere recognition is important. We recognize someone there, someone that we need to help, right? We don't deny their suffering. We don't deny their existence, right? If we deny, then we're really bad bodhisattva. So if truly, when you see a person who is suffering and you want to help them, you have to find a way to relate or sympathize or, somehow understand their suffering first. You don't just go and deny their suffering. So, and ultimately, when the realization that there's no separation between anything, so we can say nothing exists. That is the ultimate point. But right now, yes, suffering exists. People exist. Other people exist. Yeah. Some people give donation and ask for receipts for tax reduction purpose. Could that be the consider a practice of generosity paramita? Conventionally, yes, you should get the receipt for your tax reduction. Is fine. But if you want to practice paramita here, your intention when give is not to get your tax reducted. So the getting receipt has nothing to do with the intention of your giving or your donation. Okay, the second part, getting a receipt it has nothing to do with your perfection practice.
It's a byproduct.
Say again.
The receipt is the byproduct of your action.
Just a small part for this world that we have to. We are in the system, so we have to, just follow that. But then when you give, you forget. My intention for giving is like this. You transcend that. Craving is a source of suffering. Klesha, yes, and the first. But are there other forms such as anger, arrogance, and wrong views? Yes, these are all.
Ty,
yes.
hold on. Ty, I'm so sorry. I've been educating myself very much, and this is like the 5th book I've read from Thich Nhat Hanh. And he said, now hear me out, that suffering, people always say that that's like the first because it was on the list, or craving is the first. But I guess it said, or maybe this is his wording, that it's not the only one, and that it's really relevant because it was the first on the list. So is craving like the number one, or is it, does it depend? Or I know there's so many forms. So sorry.
No,
sorry.
no, it's good. It's good. All of the above are sources of suffering, but in the early tradition, craving
was like the main one.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thanks.
and it also depends on some people have more anger than craving, and anger is their source of suffering. Some people have more delusion. So all this, they are cousin and same family, I would say. Would authentic bodhisattva be the same as Mahasattva? Yes, we could say so. Okay, self, non-self, and impermanence. So self, non-self are also notions. Self is like, okay, there's somebody, for example, my name is Tien, right? So there's someone who is named Tien that exists independently from someone named Christina, right? But actually, in essence, where do you find a person, a self? Where does it reside? So because the idea of self essentially means that there's something that is permanent, independent existence, and we cannot find that. So that's why the Buddha said there's the idea of the practice of the understanding of non-self. However, if we hold on to the idea of non-self, it's also wrong, because we have to free from both self or non-self. The teaching is for us to free ourselves from these views, right? The view of self or the view of non-self, both are wrong. Or I may say are attachment. And attachment leads to suffering. So free ourselves from any kinds of view, and also from that freeing ourselves also. Okay? And impermanence just means that things change all the time, constantly. This moment we're happy, next moment we're sad. Our body, our cell, different cell in our body. Cell here is cell. Cell here dies and born again all the time. So that is impermanent, like a tree that grows every day. That is impermanent, changing all the time, right? What kind of condition to become a bodhisattva? Learn bodhisattva is someone who is in line and helps others to be in line. So are you on the path of enlightening yourself every day? And are you helping people to be like you? It's not, you don't have to like save them or anything. It's a process. Like you put each drop of water into a cup every day. Even it's small, but you're on the path to become a bodhisattva. How do we show compassion to those types of people so we can all be friends, not enemies? Yes, conventionally we have friends and enemies how, you know, sometimes showing compassion for people does not, or not only does not means that they will receive it, but it is for our own sake, our own practice. It's for our own peace, you know. If someone makes you upset, and you are being upset for a long time, even though they are already on vacation, and you still there upsetting yourself, that's not good, right? So sometimes showing compassion for that person is a way to liberate yourself from your anger, from your upset, from your negative emotion. It doesn't necessarily always for other people. So in that's way, you know, gradually we don't have any enemies. How do we show compassion to the actions of other bad action of others? Yeah, again, you know, we have a B point, which is to be a great beings, right? So we see the ideal there. We see beyond that person, which is, you know, they are not the enemies here are not that those people, but the enemies are greed, hatred, and delusion. So we have to fight. We have to fight the root causes of the appearance behaviors. Otherwise, we are fighting the wrong thing, and we never uproot those bad actions. So we have to go look deep into the nature of what is going on, not just the what seems to appear, right? There's a very good book, right? No self, no problem. That's good. No self, no problem. Still, there's a self. That's still problem, right? So, all right. So these are good questions, and I know not easy to we can understand, but to realize them is not easy, right? And it will appear very clearly when someone does something to you. A self will appear, another person will appear, the acts that or the words that they use to maybe to hurt you will appear. And at that moment, definitely there is a separation between me and that person, right? But beautiful thing is that we have the ability to pause. We have a B point to ask the question, what would a Mahasattva do in this situation? What would you know they do? And if I do this in this way, would I be a bodhisattva? Would they take advantage of me? So this question allows you to, you know, return to you first. You don't react immediately after someone does something to you. It is a beautiful gift that only human can have, pausing between, you know, stimuli and response. You pause, you reflect. So now you have a B point. You have something to pause, to ask. What else do we need, right? We need to pause and ask. Let's do a 5 minutes breakout. 2 people in one group, and then come back. Okay, one group, 2 people. and I'll give you 5 minutes, and then we come back here. All right. So again, these notions of a self, a person, a living being, a lifespan, and all kinds of notions, views are just perception, right? They are just perception. We have to, in spiritual practice, we have to go beyond perception, look beyond what is appearing, to see what is behind the appearance, not just hold on to the appearance. That's how we progress on this path. Okay, do you have anything to share? You don't have to, but just want to give some space for people to have some burning question about themselves or others. Yes, Nguyên Thien.
Yeah, I mean, but I still have a hard grasp to understand the living being. My thinking, for my narrow thinking, whatever, the living being used to be something that has Buddha nature, like a person, animals, whatever. Now, the first time I got introduced into, you introduced that a thought also is a living being. So it's only associated with the mind, or if I have a stomach pain, is the stomach pain is considered is a living being? That I'm so confused. I'm so confused with. I thought living being is something that have Buddha nature, the person or the animals, whatever. and
Okay.
It's great. You introduced some concept. So you mentioned that the thought, okay, the thought. If we liberate the anger thought, we liberate we liberate that living being. So is it only associated with the mind? What about my stomach pain or my joint pains? Are they considered as living beings too? And
okay,
could explain.
I'm glad that I'm confusing you all with this sutra. So your stomach pain, if you that is physical pain, but what is your mind when you have that pain? That is one living being. So your reaction about your stomach pain is a living being you should liberate. For example, if you have anger, why do I have this kind of pain? Why other people don't have it? That is anger, and that is the living being you should liberate. Stomach ache or headache or any kind of physical pain is just impermanent. It's just we, as a human, we are shot by this first arrow, which is physical pain. The thought of that pain, the reaction to that pain is what we have to liberate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but thank you,
right. No more confusion.
Yeah.
Okay, Yana.
Well, I was just going to say quickly that the not being separate from things and the idea of just an idea being an entity, being a separate thing, it sort of relates to saying, you talked about Siddhi Garba also. Like I noticed it's absolutely true. And I'll say it to everybody. It's wonderful when you say the heart mantra of a bodhisattva. You connect with the consciousness of that bodhisattva and you see things really react in a way that's absolutely fascinating and saves you from suffering. Guan Yin has helped me when I pray her mantra, or Siddhi Garba also. This is the reason why it works. And it's amazing. And we can say when we're suffering, when we're in the moment of the mind constantly going, I found that I can say the heart mantra of one of these bodhisattvas and then experience the peace of the bodhisattva. It's a miracle. It's amazing. It's wonderful. That's all. I'm
No,
just
say
super
do
thrilled.
say more. Say more. How does it work for you?
Well, I started with small ones, just like at the Bodhisattva temple here in Thailand. They have you say "Om Mani Padme Hum" as part of one of the actions at the temple, and I started doing some online YouTube videos where they would have mantra videos, and I'd put them on, and I would just feel happier. Like I wouldn't even say it, and then. I began doing it more and I saw things change in my life. Like I would do a mantra and I would see events change. And Carl Jung talks about synchronicities, which is a way of explaining it using non-supernatural language. But like things would change. I would see answers to my prayers. Basically, I would say something to a bodhisattva and then I would meet people related to it immediately. Like amazing meeting people like finding this class. I was wanting to find this class. I needed to have someone to learn from who spoke English and was a Mahayana Buddhist. And I found it online. And it's just a small example of hundreds of examples of just daily miracles that happen when dealing with these. And more than that, in my own heart and mind, in my own soul, I was suffering a huge amount from this constant thinking, from this constant worry. And through particularly the mantras to Tara, the green Tara mantras, and the mantra to Guanyin, Om Mani Padme Hum, and also the 1,000 armed mantra of compassion. Namo Ratnachaya, Namo Anyajana Sakara Tagagataya. I say these mantras, and it is amazing, like rain. The you can feel it, and it if you connect with it, if you do it with the open mind, if you do it with the connection and the thought and the openness, you can feel the change. It's amazing. It's changed my life. In my life, I've never had real peace. And I've been able to meditate. It's given me a peace that has helped me through very hard circumstances, through not having a job, through losing my job, through being stuck in a foreign country, through having hard circumstances, and been able to not have to worry and met great people, and just miracle after miracle of what would be called synchronicities related to those things. It's amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for the help from the bodhisattvas, from Guanyin, from Siddhigarbha, from Tara, from Lord Buddha. Yeah, it's a wow. It's amazing.
So now your responsibility is to spread the help to other people, continuing do the bodhisattva work. Okay, that's how we keep the tradition going.
I made a pamphlet about it. And I'm doing a QR code. Of course, you can't see it because of my thing, but I have like a teaching about individual bodhisattvas. Oh, you can't see it because of the silly thing.
You can if you want to share, you can send to me and I'll send it to other people.
Okay.
All right. I'm aware of our time here. So we are at 8:30 here. And thank you everybody for practicing and participating. Thank you, Yana, for sharing that heartfelt experience of yours. And thank you everybody. So now we have Trung Vũ. Please share the dedication of merit. This is the old version. We will compose a new one next week.
Okay, dedication of merit. With gratitude, with wisdom and compassion, we nurture while exploring the Diamond Sutra, illuminating our path. With gratitude, it may lead us to deeper understanding, peace, healing, harmony, and joy for all living beings. With gratitude, may our dedication to learning and practicing the Buddha teachings have lessened suffering and guide ourselves and others toward enlightenment. With gratitude, may all find happiness. May all be free from suffering. May all beings reach enlightenment.
Right. Thank you. And thank you everybody for being here.
Yeah.
Enjoy
Thank you,
your
Thich.
um,
I mean,
Thank you.
Thank you, Thich.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.